Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm here in the studio with Mark Alliegro, who is running for Congress in the 9th District, which includes the Cape and Islands. He is looking to unseat the incumbent, Bill Keating. We are focused on politics with the upcoming primary election on September 9th. Among the races that will have a contested primary is the 9th Congressional seat. 4 Republicans are running to unseat Congressman Keating, and Mark Alliegro is one of them. The primary will determine which of them will appear on the general election ballot in November. Mark, welcome to the show.
Well, good day, and thank you for having me.
And let's start with your background. And I think it's an unusual one for a politician. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be on Cape Cod.
Well, I'm a scientist. I have an appointment at the Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole and a joint appointment at Brown. I'm a molecular biologist or a cell biologist, whichever you prefer. And that is a little bit unusual, but I like to think that we need different perspective in people with different backgrounds in Washington, D.C.
Now, you're running in the Republican primary. Tell me about your political philosophy and why you decided to run for Congress.
Yeah, my philosophy is simple. It's we have a very large and intrusive federal government. It's gone way beyond what it was ever intended to do by our founders. And we need to roll that back a little bit and start adhering to our founding documents once again, our Constitution. Many of the problems are complicated, but many are simple. And many of them would be alleviated if we just followed our own laws and our own Constitution.
Now, tell us about your experience in politics. Have you served in any political roles or on even local committees, things like that?
Yeah, I'm an elected town meeting member in Falmouth, which is equivalent to, well, the people in New England know what that is. It's equivalent to a town legislature, and that's been my only foray into the if you will, politics.
So taking a big jump to running for Congress without too much political experience. So what was your thinking in that? You really felt you wanted to make that big move to the congressional seat. Right.
So first of all, I just want to make the distinction, and it's an important one. I won't even answer to the name politician. I'm not a politician. I'm a dissatisfied American citizen. But having said that, I'll use the P word, and I'll just say that, I don't have a whole lot of Washington insider experience, although I did serve as a program director at the National Science Foundation for a year. But I do have a fair amount of worldly experience as an adult, and I've dealt with, in small groups and in large groups and in different organizations, politics, if you will, on many different levels.
And what do you feel are the biggest issues on the Cape and Islands and the South Coast that you could influence if you were congressman?
Sure. That's a big question. I'm going to try to narrow it down to a couple that are sort of hot-button items, because it seems like every day some scandal or some crisis is being pushed off the front page by another. But I know a couple of issues that impact people in the 9th District considerably include the National Flood Insurance Reform Act of 2012 and the redistricting of the flood zones. That's affecting a lot of people in this district that is almost entirely surrounded by water. And quite frankly, it's going to lead to the loss of homes for a lot of people. That's one issue. And another one, I mean, who'd have thunk it? A few months ago, everybody was talking about Obamacare. That still looms large over everything, but this issue of border security and illegal immigration has really leapt to the front, and it's going to be a big issue come November.
So those are a couple of issues, and then getting more locally, your thoughts on the wastewater issues on the Cape, trying to keep our estuaries clean.
Well, that depends on good scientific data, and I have to tell you, as a scientist, and having seen the kind of science that is handed to us on the subject of anthropogenic global warming, my very first concern is that we should get good scientific data to assess that situation. And then, obviously, I grew up in the 70s. I was here for the first Earth Day. I remember it very well. And so I'm an environmentalist. I think we've all become environmentalists, and it's a good thing that we are. But, we have to strike a good balance between government overreach and letting our local communities manage their own environments.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. We're focused on politics with the upcoming primary election on September 9th. I'm talking with Mark Alliegro, who is running for Congress in the 9th District, which includes the Cape and Islands. We're talking about some of the biggest issues on the Cape and Islands. You've touched on flood zones, wastewater. What about the drugs and addiction issue on the Cape? That comes up quite a bit.
Well, I'll tell you, this does tie right back into what goes on at our southern border. Something that a lot of people don't know. First of all, I like to start off by saying that unlike Las Vegas, what happens down there on the border doesn't stay there on the border. It comes up into our neighborhoods in the 9th District and everywhere in the country in the form of economic impact and in the form of drugs. And something that a lot of people don't know, I may have these numbers reversed. It's not critical that I get them in the right order because they're both huge numbers. Something like 50% of the cocaine that comes into this country and 80% of the heroin that comes into this country is transported here by Mexican nationals. So coming across that border are a lot of things more than just people or children seeking work.
Another big issue on the Cape that we hear a lot about around here, affordable housing, and also the frequency of young people leaving the Cape because they can't find affordable housing. What do you think of that issue?
I think that well, first of all, yeah, people are leaving the Cape. The average age, I know in Falmouth as a town meeting member, just creeps up on a yearly basis, and we can't sustain that. I am a free market person. I don't believe in the government artificially holding down the cost of housing. I think when the economy is healthy and you have a good mix of both high-tech and low-tech laborers, a good, strong workforce, that you create the environment, you create the upward pressure on salaries that allow people to afford housing on the Cape. I think that artificially holding them down is not the answer.
Another issue that comes up all the time on the Cape, traffic and the need, some people say, for a third bridge, which probably would require state and perhaps even federal monies. What do you think of that issue?
I don't think we have the money for it right now.
And another issue that often comes up, renewable energy. What are your feelings on that?
Yeah, so obviously, again, and as an environmentalist, each and every one of us, and I have to tell you, I have never met another human being who doesn't like the idea of renewable energy. It's a matter of where, what, and how. So, for instance, in Falmouth, we have a big brawl in the town. It's divided the citizens of the town like I've not seen before over these wind turbines that have been plopped down right next to our neighbors' backyards. I am in favor of wind turbines and wind power. I'm in favor of solar. I'm in favor of fracking, and I'm in favor of fossil fuels done as cleanly as possible. But the right place and the right time. I do not believe in the kind of complex that's going to go out in Nantucket Sound. If you have 20,000 acres out in the plains and you would like to lease 5,000 of those acres to a wind turbine company, that's a great place for them. You still have other concerns like all the bird deaths that happen around those things. But aside from that, you're not disturbing your neighbors. You're not causing or potentially causing, health defects. So the right time, the right place, not in residential neighborhoods.
And in the last minute and a half or so that we have left, what distinguishes you from the other Republican candidates in this primary? And what were some final thoughts that you'd like people, the voters, to know about you?
Well, this is closely related to not being a politician, not having political ambitions, and also not being an attorney, but being a scientist. When I talk to people, one of the first things I tell them is, I'm a scientist and an educator, and for a living, I answer questions. And I look them in the eye and I tell them, if you have a question to ask me, you get an answer. You don't get gobbledygook or malarkey, and as often as possible, you get a yes or a no. This is exceedingly refreshing to the average voter out there. They're sick of the garbage. I mean, politicians seem to not want to answer even when it would behoove them. So I guess that's one of the key differences. If I were applying for this job in a regular format, I wouldn't get it because I got to tell you, I do not want to go to Washington, but I am going to go, and I'm going to help to put this country back on track.
And for people who want to learn more about you, should they go to your website?
Oh, yes, they should. The website is markallegroforcongress.org, and that's Alliegro.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. Mark, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you once again for having me.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.